Welcome to my next project. Here you will see the previous pantry doors. One of them is missing, and the reason for that is because I mentioned to my dad the previous day that I wanted to remove this pantry and put in one behind it that would be a walk-in. And my father, being the go-getter that he is, he started to demolish the pantry. So I said, hey, Dad, I need to videotape this. And so, yeah, that's why you don't see it the way it was. So for this video, I am going to be packing up all of the things that were in the pantry so that we can demolish this wall. In my previous video, I show the two areas, one of which is a closet that the hallway turned into, and the other part is this walk-in pantry. My father made this pantry, and most of it is 2 inches by 8-foot wood that he had, and it was a troublesome thing to get rid of. So my dad is standing here next to me with a blue outfit on, and he is going, well, by the time this airs, he'll be 90 years old. And he's pretty good about fixing stuff up. He does have some knee problems, but besides that, he's very, very helpful, very knowledgeable. He can fix almost anything, and when I ask him how to do something, he's really good about how to do it. So I'm just deconstructing this and going back and forth, putting things away. You can also see part of my house. If you look at the flooring in the kitchen, you might say to yourself, wow, that flooring's pretty ugly. And I would say, you are correct. And in about 3 weeks, I'm going to have professional guys come in and remove the flooring because it's about 4 or 5 layers deep. People prior to us just added more and more layers. So, so they're going to remove at least 2 of the layers to make the wood the same height as the wood in the pantry. And I think you will see that. Also, when I'm going through all the things, I put everything back organized. So my parents have been living in this house since I was a kid, and I only moved back from overseas a few months ago, and I found similar things in different places. So I just said, okay, let's put all of these things here. Let's put all of these things here. So not only am I moving things out of the pantry, but I'm also remembering where everything was. Some of the wood that I can reuse, I will reuse for this project. And other things we had to bring to the dump because they were just too beat up. Also, I want you to take note of the piece of white furniture. It's a little end table that's made from metal right by where we're working. And my mom likes it. That's it right there. Very much. However, it really blocks the flow of the kitchen. So here's some of the stuff that I'm putting on the little window seats. And before, anytime you do work, you got to make sure you cover your ears and cover your eyes so no little shards of anything gets into your very important body parts. So we're trying to keep all of this wood because it is original to the house. This was actually part of my dad's closet before we redid the second part of the house. This house was built in 1910, and we know that because one of our tenants who rented the little apartment above the garage, she volunteered at the city archives, and she found our picture of the house. And there was a little bit of a write-up in there. So she gave us the picture, which I thought was very sweet. And so the main house was built in 1910. The add-on was built, I think, around in the 40s. It started to slip down, and so if you rolled a marble, it would go to one corner. So my parents in about 2008 told me they didn't know what to do. because the house was falling apart. So I said, okay, let me pay for most of the reconstruction. And so that's why we have the second part of the house. So these pieces of furniture, not pieces of furniture, these pieces of wood, this came from the bedroom of the addition that was built in the 40s. Now, when I'm taking this all apart, I did not realize that I should have kept this white piece because this makes the drywall flush. Now, when I was taking this all apart, we realized this whole wall is not at all, level. And so trying to make it look level when it wasn't level was quite the chore. I ended up making it work, but if you were to see me do it, you would say, you're crazy. And I would say, well, nothing of what I did is structural. It just looks better. And yeah, you'll see at the end how it all turns out. Now, I don't know who did this, but somebody put in insulation underneath the pantry, which is very odd because the other side of this pantry is a closet and it's all insulated. So I'm not really quite sure why that happened, but my dad is pulling that out right now. Once again, my dad is 90 years old. So he started doing this with a jigsaw or whatever kind of tool this is. And I said, Dad, let me do it. So he tells me what to do, and then I take over. So what he was using wasn't working, and so we started to use this tool, which you'll see. And you might wonder, why don't we just pound the whole wall down? Well, on the other side is some beautifully done drywall. And if we just take the whole part of this out, then we have to redo the drywall on the back. So we're trying to remove this part of the pantry, of the old pantry, to make a door to walk into the walk-in pantry. So this demolition probably took me 2 days, and part of the problem is my dad needed to do everything first, and then once he and my mom left, then I did it my own way, and not to diss my dad or anything, but I'm a little bit less compliant to rules and regulations. So now I have a huge drill bit, and what I'm doing here is I'm going to make this go all the way through the wall so we can see on the other end, or the other side, where the door will end up. So here I'm pointing, look at it, go straight down. We can just remove that piece of the drywall. And then maybe if we take that part out, we can work from the other side to push it out. So my dad didn't remember how he put the original pantry in. It was one unit that he built, and then he just pushed it in. But then when the guys came to make the addition in 2008, they attached the drywall in some parts, so we didn't, anyway, it was a big mess. So now I'm using this to take out the big nails, and that's what my dad thinks is keeping everything together. So my dad's first goal was to take this out as one big unit, but that never worked. And I'm not really sure if we're using this tool right. It kept on like springing back at me. So it's not for the faint of heart. If you're afraid of power tools, don't use it this way. I think it's fun. Oh, and I must have gone through at least 5 of these blades, and on all of the pieces put together. So when we went to Lowe's to replace the blades that we had broken because we weren't really using it properly, it was really interesting to find out how the blades have changed over time. So all the blades that we had little circles in them. So we thought that all the blades that we bought had to have little circles in them to keep them there. So now I'm using the big drill again to find out where the bottom of the door is going to be. So we went to Lowe's and we asked the gentleman, I think it's called like a shark something, a T-shark or something like that. And we said, well, ours don't look like that. Can we use these new ones? And they said, we think so, but if you keep the receipt, you can return it. So then my dad went to a local, it's called Hardware Sales, where the guys who work there are amazingly knowledgeable. And he asked them about it, and they said, yes, the reason why it's different is because of the manufacturing changed over the years. So if you have any little jigsaws or saws that you put the blade in and then you tighten it up, it does not need the circle. That is old time manufacturing, no longer needed. Also part of so my dad is trying to figure out how to remove the drywall so that way we don't ruin the rest of it. So he started doing it first, and then once he left with my mom, I started doing it. And here it's how it looked when it was all done. So this is the hallway that we never used, the kitchen and the pantry. And my dad contemplated a lot how to get this out of here. Also, we didn't want to make a big mess, so my dad wanted me to keep on vacuuming every time I did this because it's a working kitchen. My mom makes dinner every night for my dad, so it can't be a mess. So he was thinking that if we had the vacuum at the same time that we're cutting, it would make it better. So now you can see this is the original house on the right side. And there was lath and plaster that I had to break and get rid of. And if I'm wearing sandals in this video, I know I should be wearing shoes. The problem is I have really good circulation in my feet, and they are normally always really, really hot. And so that's why I wear those little pink plastic shoes, because they're pretty sturdy and they let my feet air out. But normally I wear sandals all the time. I'm very warm. So here's me picking up all the mess. And I'm going to find some little treasures, which normally when you go through old houses, it's interesting what you find. And, oh, here we go. This is like a makeup container. I think it was like a compact for powder. It has a big M on the top of it. Cool, huh? Weird. And then I found some match boxes, the little flip-up types. And yeah, I was like, oh, finding stuff is cool. The lath and plaster was also in the ceilings, of course, in this old house. And last summer, my husband and I took all the lath and plaster off the ceilings. And then we hired professionals to put the new drywall up, so it's nicer looking ceilings. Before, there was no insulation in the ceilings of our house, so if anybody was talking downstairs or having the TV on, like we were growing up, we could always hear the TV set. Excuse me. Now, when anyone's watching TV downstairs, we can't hear it, because we have 3/4 inch drywall and we have insulation that we nailed up. And while here's the little match container. And so while we redid the ceilings, we also redid the plumbing for the upstairs bathroom. I'm just telling you this because I have been doing projects all along, but the main thing is videotaping them, right? And getting them on Facebook. So almost everything in this house I have touched in some way. When I was a kid, I painted the walls. I removed wallpaper. I've always really liked this house. I like houses that have personality. And I also like a lot of dark wood in my homes. Now, after we finished this, I did go to the dump, and I dumped all of this garbage there. And I think it was about $18 to dump the garbage. If you've never been to a dump, I think it's so much fun. There's certain areas. If you have cuttings from your garden, it's a lot cheaper. If you have clean wood, it's a lot cheaper. Household garbage is more expensive. This is where this category is. So you can see how tight it is to get around my dad because that white piece of furniture is there. Yeah, it's a big difference when it gets removed. So here's me all ready to go. The face mask I have is for anything up to asbestos removal. And then I have the GoPro on, and I have my goggles, and I have my earphones, whatever they're called, blocking the noise. So here's my dad cutting through the back to try to see if we can get this out. Really, I tell you, my dad was really contemplating on how to get rid of this old pantry because it's overbuilt. So my dad was born like during the Depression is when he grew up. So you shouldn't waste things. So he had all this material, so that's why he used it. And in reality, it's just so thick, and even the shelves that he had were about 2 inches thick, which uses up a lot of space in a little pantry. So part of me is glad that this all went away. And I should be wearing gloves. Yes, it's true. My dad always does. He has thinner skin, and so if he hits anything, it rips his skin, so that's not good. Now, I think this is the same one we were working on, and sometimes when I put the videos together, I try to put them in order of the time. So I think that I use iMovies. That should work, but sometimes it doesn't. It's really odd. I don't know why. So it takes some time to put these in order properly. So if you ever see my videos and they're not in order, yeah. Who's perfect? Nobody's perfect. So the door I'm walking in and out of right now is part of the pantry now that it's all finished. And probably in a few months when I have other things finished, I will remove this door and make it like a 3/4 wall and 1/4 little window so air can circulate through. It does get warm in the summer, so it's nice to have airflow through the house. So now I'm trying to get rid of the the old wall. So this is the wall that separated the old house from the new house. And it was pretty easy to get out, but it was at an angle. And then after I took this part out, you will see underneath it, there's another piece of wood that was the base of the wall, and that also had to get taken out because the flooring will go right through to underneath where the door fits. It will not go into where that light linoleum is because there's nothing wrong with that linoleum, so we're just going to keep it that way. And I tell you, I wish I could work as fast as the video. Okay, so now it's all cleared up, and my dad is still contemplating how are we going to fix this. So I went to the Restore, which is a store in town that you can drop things off that you don't need, and I saw this pocket door. This pocket door was $50, and so I looked online to see how much they are brand new, and Lowe's is selling this for $200. So I thought to myself, great idea, let's get a pocket door. So I bought the pocket door, and I told my dad, hey, Dad, we're going to use a pocket door. Because in reality, if you see how small the hallway is, it's going to be impossible to have a door that kind of opens up without blocking traffic. So yeah, the pocket door turned out really well. It was really easy to figure out once we figured it out. And we also have a pocket door in my dad's closet. So we looked at that for, inspiration. Now, this was my idea. I don't know how dangerous this is. However, it worked out well. I did this when my parents were gone. Part of me, so they wouldn't tell me not to do it. But part of me was kind of dumb if I cut my hand off or something. So, yeah, I thought this worked out quite well. And let me know in the comments below if this is the stupidest thing you ever saw. Or if you say, oh, what a good idea. So there are my parents. They're leaving. So they didn't see me do it. And then once my dad got back, then I told him what I did. And he said, oh, that worked out well. There must be some kind of tool that is easier than this for removing small pieces, right, in confined areas. I don't know. My dad does have a lot of tools, so I don't know why we couldn't figure out what was the best tool to use. So I did this all the way through, and then I cut along, and then lots of the pieces of wood just flew right out, which is great. We're trying to make the wood that's right above it, all that, the white wood that you see it's painted, we have to get rid of to put in the pocket door. So this came to me because I often watch shows on YouTube about when people make little, like they're putting two pieces of wood together, and they'll make a lot of little saws, little cuts together, and then they'll chisel it all out, and then it makes a nice area where you can put the other piece of wood into, if you've ever seen that. So I was thinking to myself, oh, why don't I just do that? If I make a whole bunch of little cuts, it might be easier to remove them, which turned out to be just exactly what happened. And after using this 3-step stool, I started becoming very jealous of big, strong people who could do this without using a step stool. I'm about 5'5", and so I can't reach anywhere. It's very annoying. And I have been using power tools since I was about 12 years old. My dad would always say, hey, Paula, come help me. So we've got 4 kids in the family, and I was like the only one who really liked doing this kind of stuff. So I don't have a fear of it, so that's why I do things that maybe some people would say, what are you doing? Okay, so now we're back in the garage, and this door comes from our neighbor's house. It's a fir door, and she said she didn't need it anymore. And one side was like this, the other side's white. So I thought I would put the white side inside the pantry and the wood side facing out, because most of the house is wood looking. And so my dad made this amazing idea where he puts this block right here, and the block is the same size as the edge of the saw. So if we measure it correctly, then we can just use this glide to saw next to, and it keeps in mind the distance from the blade to the outside of the saw. I think that's ingenious. The only problem with this huge glide is that in the middle, it moves a little bit. And then also my dad wasn't holding this down 100% flat on the wood. So we're trying to cut off pieces of the wood that had like the hinges. And also this door was about 32 inches and it only needed to be 28 inches. The other person in this video that you see is my next door neighbor, Joanne. She moved into the neighborhood when I was about 12, and she is the woman who does all of the reupholstering. She's amazing, and you know, she should teach a master class of how to do things. But she herself has taken classes at the local vocational school, and yeah, she's amazing. So now I am going to remove the drywall to the wood itself. So there's still some drywall that's too much into the door frame area. So I'm cutting that off. And this was like cutting cake. It was so enjoyable. So easy, no struggle. At the very end, there was a screw, so I had to unscrew it. Right about here, you can see where I'm having problems. There is a screw down there. And I do think about new construction versus redoing things, and I do think it takes a lot more time. I watch the shows where we're going to build a house in 100 days, whatever, 100-day house. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Yeah, to undo the problems of the past and to work around things, it takes, I think, a lot more time than just building a brand new house. But I don't know. I'm not a contractor. Now, for this tool, you have to loosen up a little nut in there. And I want to warn everybody out there, don't loosen it too much. Because it comes out, you have to spend maybe 20 minutes trying to get it back in place. Don't ask me how I know that, but that's just for your information. Now, some of these we were replacing because we needed a stronger tool, but some of these we were replacing because they just snapped. And most of these tools are very, very old. My dad's had these for years. So here's the door before. And then I put a little glide in. The direction said 40 inches above, then put the glide, the little stopper. These are the hinges on the top of the door. And then there was an area where there were holes. And I wanted to make the holes a little bit better looking. And I wanted to put some little wood flowers there. Now, as it turned out, it didn't look exactly like I wanted. First of all, the wood filler, it's really sandy. And when I sanded it off, it didn't really look that great. Here is a bit where you can make a circle with. So I just wanted to do a tiny little bit so that there would be space to place in the circular wooden flower. So here they are. I went to Denmark with my husband this past summer, and I found these little wooden flowers, and I love flowers. So I picked up this little box, and I thought, how cute would that be? Well, yeah, I'm glad I don't care about perfection, because when it was all said and done, it didn't look as good as I thought it would look. But it works. It was free, the door, and so I'm happy. But yeah, the wood filler I just find so odd. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. So if any of you know, let me know. It's regular old wood filler. I put it into the holes where the old door knobs used to be. I waited overnight, and then I sanded them, and it still looked patchy. And even after I stained the wood, it looked really bad. Now I'm using a chisel just to take off some of the wood so the little flowers will fit in there. If I could tell you where I bought these, I would. It was a bookstore, and we were... Oh. Huh. I'm trying to think about where we were, actually. It could have been in the country of Georgia. My husband and I went to Georgia to visit, and it was fantastic. If you've never been to the country of Georgia, oh my goodness, we had the best time. We went in March, and we were walking around the old town of Batumi, and there was a little bookstore, and I believe that's where I found these little wooden circle flowers. Yeah, so one of my hobbies I love to do is travel, and when we were teaching overseas, it's really close to everything. I live in the USA in the Pacific Northwest, and to fly anywhere takes a very long time. To fly to Hawaii, it's about 6 hours. To fly to Mexico, it's about 6 hours. To fly to the West Coast, it's about 6 or 7 hours. Then you have to fly from there to someplace else. So my sister lives in Sweden, so to fly there, it's about 11 hours. But if you lived in the Middle East, where we used to live in the United Arab Emirates, to fly to Europe was like 4 hours. Oh my goodness. Sri Lanka is like 2 hours. India is an hour. Maldives, 3 hours. It's just amazing. So, although I love being an American, I love living in the Pacific Northwest, flying out takes a long time. So, our big goal in the UAE was to travel while we were there because it's just so much closer. So now I'm trying to think about what kind of flowers to put in, and I decided on these little cute circular ones that are, they made me so happy. So I'm putting on the gloves because this quick wood says to wear gloves. Once again, I think whoever designs gloves need to make less of a tip on the top. I can't feel anything, and I am amazed by surgeons who can do surgery with these stupid gloves on. Maybe I don't have the right gloves, but even when I watch TV shows about doctors, their gloves don't really fit like a glove. They're too big. Anyway, so I used the gloves to mix up the mixture because it did say there's chemicals that aren't good for you. But once I put it inside of the wood and tried to mold it around, I just can't wear the gloves. They're really not helpful. So if any of you people know of any good gloves, let me know. Put it down in the comments and tell me what I'm doing wrong, because I have fat little fingers. These are smalls, and you can still see they're about a half an inch too long for me. It's just really frustrating. So I'm putting a little base in of the quick wood, and then I want to make sure it's all nice and straight and smooth so that the wood can go inside of it. And this is just to fill up the holes where the doorknobs were. The doorknob and the lock. And I saw there wasn't enough, so I popped it back out and put the more of the quick wood in there. Now, if I were to do this again, what I would have done is I would have fixed everything, stained the wood, and then put these little guys in so they'd be a different color. So when it's all finished, if I look behind it, I can see kind of the quick wood that's still a little bit white, which I couldn't stain very well. Yeah. And this is a do-it-yourself project for my own house. If somebody was paying me to do this, I think they'd probably ask for their money back. But then again, they probably buy brand new door. So this door, if I were to buy it brand new with no holes and everything perfectly, probably about $150 from a store. The Restore had some of these doors, but they still had hinges and everything. And they ran from about $50 to $100. And so when Joanne said, you can have this for free, I said, oh, thank you, bless your heart, in the best way possible. So I did do it for both areas. And don't you think these little flowers are just so cute? I'm trying to think of other places to put them in the house, but I can't think of anything. I think they're for like cards or something. Like if you make your own card, you can then put the flower on there. They're very, very thin, but surprisingly durable. Like they didn't break when I was doing this, and they also sold ones that had little butterflies on them. And also, if any of you watching this do know what I'm talking about, this little box, if you know what they are, you can put a link in the comments down below for anybody who's interested, or you can just Google it, I guess. So I'm still just putting this together. And there was a fine line between too much of the goo and not enough of the goo. And the goo, of course, I mean the quick wood. Kind of like putty until it dries up. And I must say, I so far love it. It's worked so well. You put it as a missing piece on your furniture, and after like a day, you can't even tell where it was if you sand it well. It's just amazing. So whoever developed Quickwood, thank you very much. And when I wrap it up, I just use the same wrapping paper or the plastic wrap that it came in, and it hasn't dried up yet. So that's also an amazing thing. So shout out to people who know chemical bonding and can make things for people to use that are very helpful. So here's an up close look of what they look like. So now I am going to bring the door into the kitchen to see if everything fits. And my neighborhood's relatively safe, but it makes me really nervous to leave the doors open because things are in the, somebody could steal just stupid things. So every time I leave the garage, I have to go and lock up the door or close the door so nobody comes in. That's what I'm doing right now. Now, I must also tell you that I put this door on 3 times. This first time I did it all by myself, and this actually was before I put the little tiny flowers in. So I could use those holes to put my fingers in to help prop it up. Then it did work, and then I brought it back to the garage to stain it. So maybe we'll, okay, yeah. We stained it, and then I brought it back into the house, and then, why did I do it a 3rd time? I don't remember. Anyway, but it's not that difficult to put these things on. You just have to realize that they have to go to the right-hand side. You have to prop up the door, and then you have to glide these little guys into the holding area and then snap it on. So here's what it looked like with the pocket door. And then, because we have a big area on the left of the door that was kind of in bad condition, I wanted a large piece of trim to cover it up. So here's the walls of between the pantry and the closet. The previous video will show you the closet. And now I'm putting everything away because I have to cut large pieces of wood. So the way the cutter, the saw, is set up here, if there's anything on the tabletop, you can't cut it. It's all in the way. So I do clean up after myself usually. And so now I'm trimming out the door, and my dad and I found a really nice piece of wood at Lowe's. So drywall was about $16, and we'd have to cover, cut it and do the spackling and everything. But then I found this really nice piece of thin wood, and it almost looked like wallpaper. It was just beautiful. And I think it was $22. So we used that piece as the area between the two doors, which you'll see. So there's a door that opens into the walk-in pantry, and then there is a door on the right-hand side where we put all of the cleaning supplies. Now I'm putting away the little saw here, and this actually helped a lot with deconstructing the closet as well. So these are the little pieces of the, oh my goodness, my brain is not working very well. So these are the ones that broke. A lot of these snapped off, so we had to buy a whole bunch of these new little saw bits. All right. So now I have to cut the pieces that go around the door, and I have to, there's a huge, I think it's about 10, 12 inch space between the walls now because of it being where the old house met the new house. So it's double the size of the wall. So I found these cedar shingles. I swear they're shingles from the Restore. They're $10 each, and I stained them a darker color. I wish they were a little bit lighter, but it's okay. And I cut them down to size, and I made this to be the left and right hand side trim, and that covered up all of the old ugly drywall, and we didn't have to do any fixing up of the old drywall. I think this is 7.5 inches. So I did have to do other things to fill in all the gaps inside the walk-in pantry. But if you came to my house and wanted to look, doesn't look too bad. You wouldn't really notice it unless you're a professional builder and are looking for mistakes. And I think, I could be wrong, that most people, when you walk into their house and it looks fine, you don't say, oh, that's weird, unless maybe you're hypercritical, and that's okay, but nobody I know is that way, so. Yeah, this piece of wood is so pretty. So I sanded it a little bit. And there is a difference in the color because my neighbor Joanne suggested that I use a wood, it's like a toner, so there's no blotches in it. Well, what had happened is that it made the stain a lot darker, and I never use that kind of thing because I've mentioned before I'm not perfect, and I don't really care if it's a little bit blotchy. Anyway. So I did do what she suggested, which did work very well. So you can see this is going to cover up some of the area between the two parts of the house. But it did turn out a lot darker than I normally would have had it done. So here is the same stain that I've been using for quite some time. And I really like stain. I think the stain is at least 10 years old. If you just, seal it nicely and then you reuse it and mix it up, works like a charm. And I believe this is walnut on cedar. And it also came in handy how thin it was because, as I mentioned earlier, the walls were not level. So because it's so thin, it actually bended. It actually bent around the unevenness of the wall really well. So it turned out to be a really good fix. So I was really pleased about that. And if you are working with wood, keep note that wood is flexible and bendable. So when I was there's a panda. Do you see the panda? So cute. My niece loves pandas. So I saw this in the stain. I went, oh my goodness, that's a little panda face. Anyway, when I was putting some of the wood trim up, I'm like, this is not even straight. And I put the first air gun nail in, and then I would move a little bit more. Here you can see there's a little shadow, and you go down and the shadow kind of goes away. Yeah, it's not level. Right, and then you can see where it's kind of, it's so bad. And now you can see, I'm going to show you the leveler that we used to see how bad off it was. Yeah, that's professionals. Professionals. So when I make a mistake, I'm not a professional. Yeah. So this is the little extra nook that I made to put some of the cleaning supplies in. I did fix it a little bit better than this later on, but I used some of the old cedar that was used for the walls. Okay, so here's what it looks like now. Gonna open it up. And so the microwave is in the pantry because there's too many people in the kitchen doing too many things. So I thought if the microwave was in the pantry, that's one fewer things to do out in the kitchen. My mom likes this little white piece of furniture so she can make bread on it. So that little rolly thing will be out of the way. That door is going away. Now this is the piece of wood that we're just passing, and here is the little nook that I made. And the door we had originally, and I cut it down. Anyway, thank you for Projects with Paula. I will be doing a video with the new flooring, and I'll show more about how it all turned out, because there were some things that weren't finished yet. So thanks for watching, and please subscribe if you haven't, and have a great day. Thanks.